In the middle of the night, just as I was sleeping soundly, half awake and half asleep, I suddenly felt a big mouth kissing me. Then I could feel a pair of thick, rough hands quickly unfastening my pajamas. I thought it was my husband Michael coming back from his night shift, so I was very proactive, and I eagerly responded. But then I smelled a strong scent of alcohol on him. At that moment I thought, I wonder who he was drinking so much with so late at night. But I didn't feel like blaming him at all, because after all, he hadn't touched me for a long time. I thought, with this drunken energy, I'd just go all the way. At that moment I felt like saying, today he's so fierce. How fierce? It felt like a completely different person, like being reborn. I couldn't help it anymore. I was so curious about what was going on tonight. So I turned on the bedside lamp. The moment I turned it on, my pupils nearly burst with blood. My brain throbbed. I thought, oh my God, this man is not my husband. He's the landlord, Bob, in his 40s. He was pressing down on me, breathing heavily. His palms were rough and powerful, every touch carrying a strange unfamiliarity, totally different from Michael's gentle, slow rhythm. My heart raced. I gasped wildly, couldn't control myself, and screamed. Bob shrank back at once, hurriedly grabbing his scattered clothes. Then a large hand suddenly covered my mouth. He said, Emily, don't scream. It's a misunderstanding. Don't yell. Let me explain. I was stunned. The way he covered my mouth was so smooth, like he'd rehearsed it many times. My brain went blank for a second, and I suddenly thought, what if Michael comes back? And covering my mouth so smoothly, it didn't seem like a misunderstanding at all. I could only dart my eyes around, looking at his bronzed body right in front of me. It looked especially strong. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 12 o'clock. Michael would be back any minute. I thought, if he sees this, I'll never be able to explain. He would definitely think I'm cheating, because we hadn't been together for a long time and I'd often complained about his performance. Michael had even gotten angry and asked me, are you seeing someone else? Then Bob spoke. Emily, don't get me wrong. I really didn't mean it. I just went into the wrong room. I'll leave now. I'll take my hand away. Don't yell. We'll talk tomorrow. I'll explain everything then. His face was flushed, begging me. He quickly removed his hand from my mouth, and I slowly calmed down. I watched him hurriedly gather his clothes, and then he slipped away. Really, he didn't even give me a chance to listen or speak. I just stood there frozen until after he left. I still stood there blankly. He was gone. How can I describe that moment? Suddenly I felt empty. He had taken advantage of me just like that? What was I feeling? It was a sense of unwillingness. While I was still thinking, Michael suddenly came home. He pushed the door open and asked, why aren't you asleep yet? I said, I don't know why. I can't sleep. Go take a shower. Then Michael smelled something. He asked, what's that smell in the room? I was very scared, and said it was the smell of alcohol. But I knew very well that the alcohol smell was left by Bob. Michael sniffed his way to the bedside. He said, why is there such a strong alcohol smell? And it seems like it's all over you. When I heard that, my heart panicked. I got extremely nervous. He suddenly said, you didn't drink at the bedside, did you? And he moved to lift my blanket. I didn't dare stop him, so I quickly made up a story. It's been raining for days. When the sun comes out, I'll take the quilt out to air. I felt like there were little mosquitoes or something, always biting me and making me itchy. So I sprayed some alcohol by the bed. Michael lifted the blanket and sniffed. No wonder you're still awake so late, he said. He slowly put the blanket back down, but as he did, a gust of air revealed a pair of white briefs lying on the bedding at my feet, hanging on the edge of the bed. I was terrified, because Michael doesn't own any underwear in that color. It must have been Bob's again. Why couldn't he take everything when he left? At that moment Michael was staring strangely at my neck. Thankfully he hadn't noticed the briefs, so I quickly used my foot to hook them under the blanket. Michael then asked, what's wrong with your neck? He was suddenly curious. I snapped back, looking confused. What? I hadn't yet fully come to my senses. Michael grabbed the mirror and showed me. I saw a big hickey on my neck, purple-red, like something had sucked it. I was very nervous, knowing full well it was Bob again. Now what? I was really panicking, because I'd never lied to Michael, and I didn't know how to keep making up excuses. Then Michael suddenly patted my shoulder and said, "Why are you so scared? It must be a mosquito bite. Some bug bite. Looks like we really need to air out our bedding. I'll get you some ointment. Put it on and you'll be fine by tomorrow." He went to the drawer to get some anti-itch cream and started applying it to me. At that moment my feelings were very complicated, a little lost. I felt deeply sorry for Michael, and I wondered whether I should confess what Bob had done. But then I thought, I can't bring myself to say it. I don't know how to say it, because Michael is a very traditional thinker. If I told him, he'd surely get angry and hold a grudge, bring it up again later. And I love him so much. After a lot of internal struggle, I decided, forget it. I won't tell Michael. Soon Michael took a shower and fell asleep, snoring quickly. I lay on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. I stayed up all night. Every time I thought about what had just happened, I couldn't help swallowing. I felt that Bob was actually pretty good, and his body was so strong, that V-shaped torso, so much stronger than my husband Michael's physique. My feelings were very mixed. I couldn't stop myself, so I slapped myself in the face and cursed inwardly. How can I have such dirty thoughts? Bob definitely did it on purpose tonight. He said he went into the wrong room by mistake, but I felt like he had planned it for a long time. A single man, no wife, breaking into my house and doing that to me. What kind of thing is that? I can't be taken advantage of for nothing. Tomorrow I'm going to confront him and demand an explanation. I didn't sleep all night. After a sleepless night, it was quickly 7 a.m. I got up and made breakfast for Michael, fried eggs, toast, and coffee. Michael got up at 7:30, ate, and rode his electric scooter to work. Then I went up to the second-floor balcony to hang laundry and glanced down at the small convenience store downstairs. It was run by Bob. I thought, should I go and demand an explanation? But making a big scene didn't really suit me. Yet if I threatened to call the police, I had no evidence, and it would become public. Worst of all, I still didn't want this to be exposed. So I went back inside, sat by the bed, thinking about what to do. I was really conflicted, until noon. Someone knocked on my door. I opened it and found Bob. He was holding a thermos bucket, standing there with a big smile, like a kind old father. He said caringly, "I made some soft-shell turtle soup today. Specially brought it for you to try." I looked at him with deep resentment, not knowing how to bring up the subject. But before I could speak, he put the thermos on the dining table, turned to me and said, "You have to drink it while it's hot. Drink it up." He sat down on a stool, looking completely relaxed, as if nothing had happened between us. I inexplicably got furious. "So this is your idea of an apology? Or are you acting like nothing happened?" I slammed the door shut, walked quickly to him, and demanded, "What do you mean? You haven't explained what happened last night. You haven't even given me an explanation." Suddenly he looked embarrassed, covered his face, and whispered, "I already told you, it wasn't on purpose. I went into the wrong room. An accident. Don't make a big deal out of it." He said it so matter-of-factly that I felt he was just playing dumb, pretending nothing happened. I slapped the table hard. "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Even if you really went into the wrong room, how do you explain what happened next? You're a single old bachelor. Don't you know whether you have a wife or not?" He said, "Emily, don't get so excited. Why are you so loud? Not good if someone hears." He reached out and pulled my dress, trying to get me to sit down. "Sit down and I'll explain." I pushed his groping hand away. "Say what you need to say. If you don't give me an explanation today, I'm calling the police right now." The corner of his mouth twitched upward, then quickly straightened. "What? It was the alcohol. When I held you, I smelled a woman's body fragrance. I thought I was having a sweet dream. And a single guy like me, can I pass up a sweet dream like that? So what happened. I clenched my teeth in hatred. You are absolutely a scoundrel. You lie through your teeth. He said, honey, don't be nervous. I won't tell anyone about this. Let's just pretend it never happened. He reached out a hand and started touching my thigh. I got angry. What are you doing? I stepped back, full of caution, but he stood up with a smile. Emily, don't act so innocent. If you were really going to call the police, you would have done it last night. Your husband hasn't touched you for a long time. I saw how eager you were last night. As he spoke, he wrapped his arms around me from behind, saying, we're both adults. I understand. Then he started kissing my white neck, his lips hot and rough. This sudden turn of events shocked me so much I couldn't snap out of it. My whole body trembled. Strangely enough, the first moment, I didn't even struggle. Instead, I felt a kind of thrilling excitement, as if something deep inside me had been awakened. A sly smile appeared on his face. One hand slowly slid down, the other hand covered my neck, and he whispered in my ear, Emily, your body is more honest than you are. Weren't you missing last night? His words made me feel like I was losing control. The sunlight outside was fine. Occasionally a car horn sounded downstairs, but inside this room everything had become sticky and ambiguous. Suddenly I really wanted something to happen. Shame and desire mixed together like a burning fire. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I lowered my head and let out a soft moan that even I didn't recognize. He blew on the sensitive spot behind my ear and said, can't hold back anymore? Don't fight it. If you don't tell and I don't tell, no one will know. With the last bit of sanity I practically begged him in a low voice. I'm ovulating today. My voice was so soft I could barely hear myself. Bob paused for a moment, then pressed even closer, his hot breath sweeping over my ear. He said in a low voice, don't worry, I know better than you want to do. Then he said that, and one hand had already slipped inside my collar. I closed my eyes. The last string of reason in my head snapped. The room was filled only with the sound of two people breathing heavily, and the rustle of the curtain gently tapping the window frame. Commas for what happened next, and whether Michael noticed anything else unusual when he came back that night. That's a story for another night. One hand slipped inside my collar, rough fingertips rubbing against my collarbone, lighting a string of tiny sparks. My whole body went limp in his arms, and only two words remained in my mind. Forget it. Forget it. It's already come to this. Bob clearly sensed my surrender, and his smile deepened. He lifted me in his arms and put me down on the sofa. The thermos of turtle soup still stood on the dining table like a silent witness. He leaned down, his bronzed skin shining with a wild luster in the afternoon light, so different from Michael's pale worker complexion. Emily, he said my name in a low voice, his tone like sandpaper on wood. You're even more beautiful than you think. I didn't answer. I just closed my eyes. What followed was like a long-eyed storm, sudden and violent. The sofa springs squeaked under the strain, mixing with my stifled gasps, filling the entire living room. Sunlight leaked through the gap in the curtain, falling on my hands gripping the sofa cushion, my knuckles white. Bob's movements were as fierce as last night, even more unrestrained, because this time there was no misunderstanding, no wrong room, just the mutual unspoken consent between two people. As he moved, he whispered dirty things in my ear, like Michael never does you like this, does he? And does your husband know how honest your body is? I bit my lip and didn't want to respond, but my body betrayed me, arching to meet him again and again. I don't know how long it lasted. Eventually everything quieted down. The only sound in the living room was the ticking of the clock on the wall, as if counting the minutes of my absurdity. Bob rolled off me and lay down at the other end of the sofa. He lit a cigarette, blew out a puff of smoke, and turned his head to look at me. His expression was surprisingly gentle. Emily, he said, What happens between us stays between us. I sat up and frantically straightened my clothes. My dress was wrinkled, my bra hooked wrong. I couldn't look him in the eyes. I just murmured mm. My throat was dry as sandpaper. He stood up, stubbed out the cigarette in the ashtray, walked over to me, and tilted my chin up with his thumb and forefinger, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Don't feel guilty," he said, rubbing my jawline with his thumb. "What your husband can't give you, I can. Nothing shameful about it." I slapped his hand away. My eyes were sore, not from gratitude but from shame. Shame that I hadn't resisted. Shame at my own moaning. And worst of all, shame at that inexplicable hint of satisfaction deep inside me. Bob didn't say anything more. He picked up the now cold thermos, changed his shoes at the door, and before leaving, looked back at me and said softly, "I'll take the soup back and reheat it. I'll bring it again tonight." The door closed, leaving me alone on the messy sofa. I sat there blankly for a long time, then got up and rushed into the bathroom. I turned the water temperature to maximum and stood under the shower head, scrubbing my body frantically. Steam blurred the mirror and my expression. I didn't know if I was trying to wash away Bob's smell or my own guilt. At 3 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Michael. "Working late tonight. Probably won't be home early. Eat without me." I stared at that message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard for a long time. Finally I just typed OK. That afternoon I did nothing but sit on the balcony, staring into space, watching Bob moving boxes in front of his convenience store downstairs. Occasionally he would look up toward my apartment. From several floors away I couldn't see his expression, but every time he looked up, my heart jumped. At 6 p.m., Michael still wasn't back, but the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was Bob, again carrying the thermos. I hesitated for more than 10 seconds, then finally opened the door. He walked in, put the thermos on the table, and looked at me. His eyes slowly slid from my face down to my neck, where, besides last night's hickey, there were several fresh red marks. He swallowed. "The soup is hot again," he said, his voice low. "Drink it while it's hot." I stood by the door, not moving, gripping the doorknob tightly, my knuckles white again. I told myself to push him out, to close the door, to never see this dangerous man again, but my feet seemed rooted to the floor, and I couldn't utter a single word of refusal. Bob seemed to see through all my struggles. He walked toward me, each step landing on the beat of my racing heart. When he was very close, he reached over and gently closed the door behind me. Click. The latch locked. "Michael's working late tonight?" he asked. I didn't answer. He moved a little closer. His nose nearly brushed my hair. "Emily." His voice was deep, hypnotic. "Your ovulation, it's not over yet, is it?" My breath hitched. In that moment, reason completely collapsed, like a dam bursting its first gap. Impossible to plug again. I did not push him away. That night, Michael got home a little after 9. He had already eaten, and he brought me a piece of tiramisu. I was wearing clean house clothes, my hair still half wet, sitting on the sofa watching TV. The TV was on, but I wasn't really watching anything. Took a shower. Michael asked casually. Yes, I was sweating this afternoon, so I rinsed off. He leaned over, smelled my hair, said smells nice, and handed me the tiramisu. When I took the box, my fingers trembled slightly. He sat down next to me and turned on a ball game. I leaned my head on his shoulder, pretending everything was normal, but inside my underwear, Bob's smell still lingered. That night, Michael wanted to make love. I used the excuse that I was too tired and turned my back to him. He sighed, turned off the light, and soon fell asleep. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying that scene over and over. Bob's last words before he left. "Tomorrow noon, I'll come get the thermos. That thermos. Tomorrow noon, it will appear at my door again, and I know that when it does, I will still open that door." Left parenthesis.
End.